Hey, welcome FCS educators. It's Rob Almy again, FCS AI Integration Coordinator. Hey, I had mentioned at the PD Day for AI that I had created a gem in Gemini, especially for you as educators at FCS. The gem that I created was called the FCS Biblical Worldview Integration Helper. How is that for a title? The purpose of this gem that I created for you is to help you integrate a biblical worldview into your lessons. Because, let's face it, sometimes when we are creating lessons, it's hard to find some connections between our lessons and the truths of Scripture. This gem will hopefully give you some ideas that you can use. Remember, though, as always with any AI, it's so important for you to use your own wisdom and your judgment when evaluating what is the AI output, to check the AI's work and to make sure that it's usable for you. And so always be sure to do that. Before I show you the gem, I thought it would be helpful for us to talk a little bit about what is a gem in the first place. And so a gem is Google's version of a customized AI assistant. Think of it as an AI assistant. Similar in concept, if anybody has ever heard of custom GPTs with ChatGPT, a gem is very much like a custom GPT. It allows you to create a specialized version of the Gemini model tailored for a specific role or tailored for a specific task or having a specific personality. It's an AI chat agent built within Google's Gemini platform that is given a unique set of instructions, trained on a knowledge base, and has capabilities to perform a highly specific task or adopt a distinct persona. Now, one of the things that makes a gem different than just using Gemini in general and using the chatbot Gemini is that a gem is for a specific task. And so instead of scraping all of the internet and opening itself up to greater hallucinations, a gem just scrapes the knowledge base that it is given. Now, it'll bring in other things as well, but it's much more specific. It drills down into the specific task that you are asking it to do. Let's talk about some of the key features of a gem. So let's talk about the custom instructions and persona. You define the gem's role. So for example, you can tell the gem when it interacts with the user to be positive and upbeat. You can tell it that you want it to be a technical writing editor or a budgeting assistant. You can set its objective and its tone. This replaces the need to write long, detailed prompts every time you start a conversation because the gem is already trained to be that. You also upload to it specialized knowledge files. You can upload your own documents or data files like internal guides, past work examples, or specific criteria for the gem to reference when generating responses. Now, the gem I created for biblical integration, I did not use my own knowledge base or my own documents because this is such an important thing, but instead I created using Gemini's deep research, specialized knowledge file summarizing some of the work that's based on the public writings of people like Dr. Glenn Schultz or Dr. Roger Erdvig or Dr. Marty and Debbie McCullough and others who specialize in biblical worldview integration for educators. And so this gem that I'm going to show to you is trained on all of those knowledge files. In terms of accessibility, once created and saved, the gem appears in the Gemini sidebar, allowing you to instantly launch a conversation with your specialized AI assistant. In terms of use cases, they are best used for repetitive tasks, maintaining a consistent brand voice, or giving the AI specific domain-related expertise. And so in our case, the specific task that it is given is to help us to integrate a biblical worldview into our lessons. And that's something we do over and over again, so it makes sense to use the gem to do that instead of writing a long prompt each and every time. So in short, a gem is your personal pre-programmed AI expert ready to help you with a single defined purpose within the Gemini ecosystem. And so let's go ahead and try it out. If you suffered through all of that explanation, let me go ahead and show you the actual gem that you can use. And so I am going to minimize my mug here and hopefully put us up on the screen. And so in an email, you should have been shared the link. And if you come over here to the link and go ahead and click on it, it is going to take us to the gem. So you need to make sure that you are signed in to your school Google account, so your FCS account, when you go ahead and click on that link, because it's only been shared with people within the FCS sphere. And so when you click on that link, what you will see over here is the FCS Biblical Worldview Integration Helper. And the description says this gem helps teachers to integrate a biblical worldview into specific lessons based on the gem user's input. And so the instructions are really easy. And if you forget what you're supposed to do, you can just type in here. Just type in the chat window. And so remember, the chat window is down here, the grade, the subject, and the lesson you are teaching, and go from there. So we're going to try a few of these. And so let's go ahead and let's say that we teach the second grade. So I'm going to come down here to the chat window and type in second grade. And let's say we are teaching reading today. And let's say we are on the topic of vowels. And I am just going to submit here. I could also hit return or enter, and it would submit. And let's see what it gives to us. So it's going to think for a moment. Okay, so here is what it gives us. It says, as the FCS Biblical Worldview Integration Gem, I can help you develop deep, intentional biblical integration points for your second grade reading lesson on vowels using the creation, fall, redemption, restoration framework of biblical integration. The core biblical theme for a lesson on vowels and reading is language and communication as a gift of God's order. And so it has a section here, Biblical Worldview Integration for Vowels for second grade reading, connecting the topic to the CFRR meta-narrative, which is this business up here about creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. This framework helps students see the big story of the world that God is writing through the specific details of their lesson content. And so it gives you some background there, and it includes some core questions related to creation, to fall, redemption, and restoration. And so you can read all of that, and that's a little bit more technical language, but then you get down here, it says scriptural focus and application. Focus on the redemption point as it provides the most practical daily application for second graders' behavior and use of language. So it references Ephesians 4:29 using the NASB 1995 version, right? Because I have trained it to only use that version, our official version here at FCS. Let no unwholesome word proceed from your mouth, but only such a word as is good for edification according to the need of the moment, so that it may give grace to those who hear. So classroom activity suggestion, introduce the verse, explain that unwholesome words are words that break people down, and edification means building them up. Talk about vowel word building. Have students practice reading and sounding out words with their focus vowels, then categorize the words into two groups. Words that build up, edification, words like kind, help, friend, love, glad, and words that tear down, unwholesome, words like mean, mad, hate, fear, yell. And then you can give it some application. Discuss how the exact same vowel sounds and letters can be used to make both building up and tearing down words. Challenge the students and yourself to constantly choose to cultivate a habit of only speaking edifying words, using the words they just learned to cure any broken communication and create a kinder classroom environment. Okay, so that was second grade reading vowels. Let's try another one. This time we're going to do seventh grade. Let's say you teach seventh grade science, and you are studying Earth's minerals. I'm going to tell it to go here. As the FCS Biblical Worldview Integration Gem, I can help you develop deep, intentional biblical interaction points for your seventh grade science lesson on Earth minerals using that same framework of creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. And it's going to give you that integration that you can go ahead and use there. So let's look at one of these. So in terms of creation, what ought to be, that's the core or essential questions. If you've done any of the work with the McCulloughs using the ACSI continuing education, then you'll remember those essential questions. God's wisdom, design, and structure. Minerals with their precise crystal structures, specific chemical compositions, and predictable physical properties, hardness, cleavage, etc., are a direct testimony to God's rational, consistent, and ordered nature. Psalm 104, verse 24. He designed the raw materials of this earth to sustain life and reveal his glory. Actionable classroom question. How does this perfect repeated pattern of a mineral's crystal structure reflect the wisdom and reliability of our Creator? How does this beauty inspire us to cultivate wonder? You could ask that question to your 7th grade class. Now, you might want to make it a little bit more 7th grade friendly, but you could do that. When it comes to the fall, broken relationships and exploitation, the goodness of mineral resources is corrupted by the sin of greed, idolatry, leading to environmental exploitation, unjust labor practices, and mining conflict over resources, and the destructive desire for wealth. The earth itself groans under the consequences of the fall. So you might say with your class, when we learn about the immense value of minerals, how does the human greed, coveting, tempt us to exploit the earth or treat others unjustly in the pursuit of wealth? We must ask God to help us curb our selfishness. And then you can talk about redemption. We're not going to read the rest of these and restoration, but again, what can be, what will be, and some specific questions or comments that you can use with your class. And again, it's going to provide you with some scriptural focus and application. Focus on the creation point to ground the scientific study in awe and the redemption point for ethical stewardship. So Psalm 104, verse 24 in the NASB says, O Lord, how many are your works? In wisdom you have made them all. The earth is full of your possessions. So here's the suggested classroom activity. Introduce the verse that I just read. Read the verse and discuss how the structure of minerals demonstrates God's wisdom. And then do some mineral analysis, hands-on science. As students examine and test mineral properties, hardness, luster, cleavage, fracture, ask them to use the scientific evidence to testify to God's wisdom. Observation, this mineral, let's say mica, always breaks along flat planes or cleavage. Worldview connection. This predictability confirms the consistency and order of the Creator, who made physical laws reliable so we could study and understand them. The perfect order in a tiny crystal is a silent form of worship to Him who created order from chaos. That's pretty good, and that's worth the whole prompt right there. Here's the application. End the lesson by asking students to research a common mineral, copper, iron, lithium, and discuss its redemptive use in medical devices, clean energy batteries, tools for building homes, versus its fall-related misuse. For example, excessive waste, unjust extraction. This helps them see science not as a neutral topic, but as an act of service in God's world. So there you go. Some biblical integration for 7th grade science and Earth's minerals. Let's do one more. Let's say that you are teaching 10th grade, so you put your grade in, 10th grade, and you are teaching physical education. Now, if you're watching closely, you notice that I just misspelled physical. That's okay. You don't have to go back and correct it if it's close enough. The AI knows what you're talking about. Physical education, and let's say we are doing instructions and rules of tennis, or lessons, instructions and rules of tennis. And I hit submit. It's going to take a moment to do some work. Okay, it says the core biblical theme for a lesson on the rules, instructions, and fair play in sports is divine law, order, justice, and self-control. Again, it's going to give us that framework there of the meta-narrative of creation, fall, redemption, and restoration. So let's go through some of these here. Let's look at the redemption one. Integrity, self-control, and respect. Through Christ, we're called to display character over performance. The court, the tennis court, becomes an arena to practice self-control, honor the official's authority, that's submission to authority, and treat the opponent with respect, love of neighbor, even when we disagree. The goal is to pursue excellence as an act of worship. So the question might be for your PE students, how can we use our self-control and integrity to cure the temptation to cheat or show frustration? How can our commitment to fair play be an act of justice on the court? All right, and then on this restoration piece of it, it says, eternal prize and perfect discipline. The disciplined effort required in sports, training, practice, rule following, points toward the ultimate prize of an imperishable crown, 1 Corinthians 9:25. It reminds that temporary excellence is a shadow of the eternal excellence Christ offers in his restored kingdom. And then in talking with your students, the effort required to master a skill, like the serve in tennis, points us to a greater calling. What is the eternal prize we are ultimately training for? And how does that knowledge motivate us to live with integrity today? And then it gives you a scriptural focus and application that focuses on the redemption point. It's a scriptural reference is from the NASB 1995, 1 Corinthians 9:25. And everyone who competes in the games exercises self-control in all things. They then do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So as you introduce the rules, creation, or dedicate time to deeply review the key tennis rules, foot faults, lets, out, scoring, emphasize that these rules allow the game to be played well. Introduce the verse, discuss how athletic training requires self-control. Galatians 5:22-23, right? Fruit of the Spirit, often giving up temporary pleasure, such as comfort or poor habits for a long-term goal. The perishable wreath. The application, the self-control challenge the students to identify 3 specific ways they can display Christ-like self-control during a tennis match, relating the physical act to a spiritual quality. So physical control, staying disciplined to avoid a foot fault on the serve. An example of verbal control, choosing to give the opponent the benefit of the doubt on a close call, even if no umpire is present, or not complaining about a mistake. Emotional control, not allowing a double fault or a missed shot to lead to an emotional outburst or negative body language, demonstrating that our identity is not found in performance. And then some reflection time, discuss how their commitment to the rules and to playing well excellence is a form of worship and a way to create a truly redemptive environment in the gym. And so those are some examples of the biblical worldview integrator gem that I have created for you. Now you can always use the link that is there in the email that I have shared with you, but you can also come over here to the left, and you see in gems over here, it has listed it there. And if I can get it to work, it's not, there it is. The little 3 dots there, if you pull down on it, and you can hit pin, and now it's going to be pinned in your sidebar. And so instead of going to try to find the link in an email, you can always have it anytime that you open up Gemini, Google's Gemini. It will be over there in the left side, and you can just go ahead and click on it, and you can always hit just new chat and hit the gem, and there it is, and you've just started over again and again. You just simply put in your grade, your subject, and the lesson that you are teaching. So you can always do that. Now you can also go over here and you can add files. So let's say that you had a lesson that was already in a Google document. Well, you can take that Google document and you can upload it to the gem, and now it's going to give you even better output because it knows the context of your lesson. And so to add files, you come over here to the plus, and you come to either upload files if you're uploading it from your computer directly, or you can add files from your drive. And so I'm going to hit add from drive, and if I wanted to select one of these files, I would just use one of these files. I don't have one that's particular here, I'm not going to show you, but you would just add one of your files as you would normally do, and it's going to upload. And then you're just going to do the same 3 things: put your grade, your subject, and you might say the lesson is attached, and hit submit, and there you go. Now if it gives you something and you're like, oh, that's way too confusing, or ask it to simplify it. Ask it to give you some clearer examples. Say that you don't like the application that it gave you, or you want a different verse. Remember in a previous training that I did just on Gemini in general and prompting, I said you can iterate. You can tell it that you want better. You can tell it to change something. You can tell it to focus on something. Well, I hope that you have found this mini lesson on gems, and particularly this gem that you are free to use, the FCS Biblical Worldview Integration helpful to you, and I hope that you will use it as you go about thinking about how you can integrate biblical worldview into your lessons. Thanks so much for watching. Take care. God bless.